Okay, cool.
Kate Nash, welcome to the podcast. It's so exciting to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, that's brilliant. So I've just actually been, I'm a little bit croaky today. I've actually been away on a girly weekend in like North Dorset. And when I told them I was interviewing you today, they were all kind of going a bit crazy and playing all your songs all weekend. So
That's so funny.
so yeah, Foundations was a bit of an anthem for the weekend. And my friend said she'd never speak to me again if I didn't tell you how much she loved you in Glow. So
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
So let's just get that out of the way first.
So that you
Um,
can be friends with her.
yeah. So, what point did you go vegan then? Tell us your story.
Yeah, so I went vegan in 2017 after I watched Okja. You know them? Do you know that movie?
I haven't seen it. No, I've heard of it, but yeah, tell us a little bit about it for anyone who
It's
hasn't.
Yeah, it's a really amazing film. It's like a comedy kind of action with a heart and a message. And it has a really incredible cast. There's like a lot of actors that you would know in it. And there's basically this super pig that's been grown for the meat industries to like create more meat in kind of a quicker way, and they're these like giant pigs, and they're so cute. They're like animated pigs,
Right.
like CGI kind of pigs. And they're placed in all these different areas all over the world in different farming, kind of like to see which farming techniques work best for the meat, and it's a competition. And there's one in Korea with this little girl, and the little girl basically grows up with this pig, and she has no idea that her uncle is part of this competition. And you see them kind of on adventures throughout the day, and then this Jake Gyllenhaal plays this kind of like evil cartoonish sort of like vet, but he's coming to pick up the pigs to bring them to like the meat competition. And so one day she comes home and the pig is gone, her best friend called Okja, and he's been taken away to New York for this competition. And she's like, Okja, and like basically goes on this rampage to save her best friend. And you meet all these different vegans. There's like one guy, Dev Bostick, plays this vegan who's so vegan he doesn't eat anything, so he's just always like fainting because there's like problems with like every part of the food industry. And yeah, I was sitting there, I had just gone through a breakup, and like I was with my dog Stella, and there's this scene at the end, like it's quite fun most of the way through, and then there's a scene at the end where Okja's in real trouble at one of these farms, and all the pigs are getting like hung up and shot, and there's just thousands of them in these big pens. And you are watching it and you're like, I know this is a pig that doesn't exist, this is like a CGI, like made up imaginary pig, but like this really happens. And there's no denying it. It just like it's just this moment in the film where it hits you, the reality of the way that we produce food. And I'm sitting there with my dog, and I'm like, I think I actually said out loud, okay, I get it, or something like that, because I just felt like I've been vegetarian for 8 years, and I sort of ignored the issues of the dairy industry, as one does when they're vegetarian. And I just had this realization that I didn't want to contribute in any way anymore to the industry. Going vegetarian for me was about not eating animals and not wanting animals to be killed. And then veganism for me was like, I don't want to participate in this because we've just gone too far.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what we're doing anymore with, it's not even food. Like, some of the meat, as you know, I'm sure, that is produced has to be sprayed with chemicals to be edible, because it's covered in so much of its own, like the animal's covered in so much of its own feces because of how they're kept. And when you're like listening to that, it's one of those moments with human beings where you're just like, what happened? Like, what happened to us? Why did we're now making food out of animals which people can eat, that is inedible because of how it's produced.
Yeah.
And like my mum has always said this when she goes to the supermarket. She's like, I don't need 100 different types of shampoo. Like, why do we have so much choice? And choice is incredible, but the way that we're producing and like mass producing food and kind of everything that's mass produced is terrible for the planet. And like honey, for example, is some vegans will eat honey, some vegans won't eat honey. I actually think that eating honey, if it was in my local area, made by somebody who kept a bunch of bees or in like from a local farm or something, that's kind of how we should be interacting with nature, right? Is like that's good for allergies. But I go to the supermarket and there's like a billion golden bears and different types of honey, and not all of them are made ethically. And I'm just like, I don't want to be involved until we've figured out how to kind of make food without doing this damage. I can't guarantee that I'm gonna be able to participate this in a way that like I'm okay with ethically. So there's like the political and the personal. The personal is I don't want to eat animals, and I don't want like cows to be separated from their calves. I find it like I don't think we should eat babies. I don't think we should mess up like babies and mothers. Like that's obviously evil to me. And then there's the other side, the political side, which really is where veganism like comes into its like as a full spectrum. Is just that like we're just so out of touch with anything that is natural. I'm not like, I get that there's a way to kill animals that is like ethical. For me personally, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to kill animals. I want to be friends with them. But I understand the concept that like someone can can kill animals ethically, and then they like but what we're doing is just unethical. And also I don't want to kill animals, and I love animals. So there's like two sides of it for me. That makes sense.
There's just too many humans, and we keep saying this every week. I'm speaking to all these different people and we're like, there's just too many of us, and we're greedy, and we want to all these big industries trying to make more and more money and squeezing the animals into smaller crates and spaces, and it's just all
I don't even know, is it that there's too many of us? Because isn't there so much food waste, and they're apparently like pouring dairy like out because there's just not like there's so much waste is the thing. Like we could actually feed everyone on the planet. Like I think there's like statistics about this. I don't know them to quote them, but like the amount of food that like supermarkets are throwing away, and then the amount of people that are like hungry and can't afford to eat, or are like starving, what are we doing?
It's just all messed up. I mean, you're quite a big feminist, aren't you? And I know a lot of people sort of believe or kind of feel that the dairy industry, dairy is a feminist issue. Would you agree with that?
I get that. I think that I don't know if I'd call it a feminist issue, but I do understand why people think that, because it, like, if you just think about the concept of motherhood and like taking babies away from mothers when they're like clearly distressed, it's like this, why would we ever think that was I mean, I've seen all the footage, I've watched all the horrible documentaries, and like it does seem very unnatural to like, it is unnatural to take away a baby from its mother. So I don't know, I'm not sure I would call it feminist, but I completely understand the connection, because it's like a mother issue, isn't it? It's like taking away from its mother.
And I think female animals do tend to suffer terribly within the excuse me, within the animal industry. You've got pigs in farrowing crates just lying there feeding their babies, and
it's horrible.
It is,
it's so horrible, isn't it? Why do we do it? It's overwhelming to like think about. I feel like at least being vegan, I can feel good about that. I'm just not participating. you have this definitely a heightened sense of awareness because you're totally switched on to why you're not doing it. Um, but the good thing is you can just think, well, at least I don't contribute to any of that because I can't stop it, but I don't fund it in any way.
Yeah, yeah, it can be overwhelming and quite sort of can sort of get you down a bit, can't it? Because you just think, what more can I be doing? But Coffee Wars is a vegan film, so that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So you're spreading the message. Tell us about the new film. It's out. Is it out this week?
It is out. I don't know the exact date in the UK that it's out. It came out in the US last week. We'll have to find the right date so that you can.
Yeah, yeah. I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah. But yeah, well, I mean, I read the script and I just felt really like I could play this character. I feel like quite similar to her in ways where she's really strong-minded. She kind of knows what she thinks and she's not afraid to say it. At the same time, she doesn't always think before she speaks, or she's just like not, and I feel like I'm kind of like this, like my ideals and my ethics and my passion always like comes first. It's the first foot in the door, to like do what you believe in and like run your own business. So I really relate to that. And, it was just like a fun way to talk about veganism. And I became vegan after watching a film. So I actually know the personal impact that it can have because like I'm a vegan because I watched Okja.
Yeah.
So like it can really have an impact. And I think that the more awareness that there is, just in all these different, did you ever see that Simon Amstel's like mockumentary that he did about the future where, did you see
Oh,
that?
I don't think so. No, I'll have to look that up.
He's vegan and he's done like a vegan comedy mockumentary
Right.
about this like vegan like activist who said that he didn't want to be called vegan anymore. Like, why do you call us a vegan? Like, you're a carnivore.
Yeah.
And then there's all these like kids in the future that are all vegan. But yeah, I think that like it's just so good to raise awareness in a comedy where it's really not about making you feel guilty. Because Jo isn't always right either, my character. She's not always right. And she's definitely like, she's got like sort of a one track mind with it. And it's like her way or the highway. And she makes mistakes and like messes up because she's also like trying to like make her business work. So she has to make sacrifices, ethic sacrifices. And I think that like comedy is such a good way to reach people because it's not going like, you have to be vegan. And if you're not, you should feel terrible about yourself.
Yeah.
It's more like, oh, think next time you order your coffee, maybe you'll actually order an oat latte or a coconut latte or whatever it is. Like we have to like think about the choices that we're making. And I feel like there's a more of a like mass scale desire to do that.
Yeah.
Because of the interest in climate change, because of the effects of climate change and what they're saying about humans surviving, living on this planet.
Yeah. Stop
Like the
trashing it.
planet. I always think this, that like Save the Planet was like I wonder who created that campaign, because I feel like whoever did, either they did it with the best intention, but I think it was a mistake, or I feel like you'll find out it was someone like BP or something that invented it, because you know that they invented like your carbon personal footprint that was like made up by BP to it's like a marketing tool to stop people thinking so much about big corporations and to think about your personal impact. Whereas really they know that the little that we can do is like a speck of dust in like the ocean that they could like clear out, literally.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. That's just
But
awful.
I know. But I think Save the Planet is really similar, because if you're like save the planet, people are going to be like, I don't want to fucking save the planet. I swear, sorry. But like, I'm trying to pay bills, I'm trying to pay rent, I'm trying to get a job, I'm trying to raise my kids, I'm trying to like whatever it is like that you're doing in life. Like Save the Planet is a bit like, okay, it's like so out there, it's so fluffy, and you can't save the planet. You're a tiny human, you're like so small, you're an ant on the planet. But you may not survive what you do to the planet. That's the thing. It's not about saving the planet. Planet will be fine. She's going to be like filled with trash and plastic, but she'll just overgrow it, and there'll be some mushroom that comes and like eats everything, and like there'll be so many storms and different like ages of weather that like the planet's going to survive, but humans won't be able to live on the planet anymore because we'll have destroyed our habitat.
Yeah.
That's the point, I think.
It's making it more personal, isn't it? Because like you say, it's such a sort of an abstract idea, save the planet. Like what does that, what does that
How does it
even
relate
mean?
to
Like
you? It's too large, you know what I mean? And if you think about like the average like everyday like working person who's kind of, I mean, it's interesting to talk about this now when there's so much about in the news about the schemes that are coming in for climate change in London to stop people driving. And it's like all these like old cars that are going to be £12 a day. But
yeah.
like, who has older cars? People that can't afford new cars. So I just feel like I understand the effort, but I think that like it ends up being your like the working classes that sort of get screwed over. Um, and then it's like blaming it constantly. It's like shining this light on like, oh, working class people, they don't care, or they're stupid, they're ignorant. And I just get so infuriated because I'm like, no, they're trying to live and they keep getting screwed over and not like considered in a bigger picture. And I think it just creates more division and more like separation between the classes. So yeah, I think we need to think about like the individual and like the working classes, and like how we can all be taken care of and be like contribute, but like we should be being taken care of like first, you know what I mean, by the
Yeah.
people that actually like have the power to do that. It's just there's this girl I follow on Instagram called, I think it's like Shark, I have to look it up, it's called like Shark Girl Madison or something. It's a really like difficult Instagram to follow.
Right.
She's really passionate. Let me look it up and see what it is. She's really passionate about sharks. And yeah, Shark Girl Madison. She's very, very passionate about sharks. She's like a tech diver, and she's also a filmmaker. She's from Australia, and she films and makes documentaries about basically like fishermen that like kill sharks. And she goes into why this happens, like what is actually like, it's like those people that are being blamed for everything because they're doing this like violent action, but it's like so many systems that have like created this job, and sort of like explaining the whole context for like the thing that you hate, why is that happening, and like should you really be blaming the fishermen, or is there like a bigger picture, and is there someone else more responsible for like what's happening?
Yeah.
I think in this age that we live in, it's really important to dig deeper because we're so reactive now. We're all 14. We're all like at school and Instagram being like, oh my fucking God. You know what I mean? Like we're all so quick to judge others now. We're so reactive, but
Yeah.
there's got to think deeper.
It's so true. And I think the problem is we're all so busy and all these issues are so complex. I mean, we did
Yeah.
an article in Vegan Food Living magazine about palm oil. And
Mm,
it's not black and white, because there's
yeah. Yeah.
palm oil is providing jobs in these areas, and sustainable palm oil is actually like fine, but it's who has the time to kind of
Right.
research unless you're passionate about it. And like you say, if you're living on the breadline and trying to just get through the day and like work and kids and everything else, then that's not going to be on your priority list.
Yeah, and it's difficult to like it is actually difficult to change every single thing in your life. And that's coming from a perspective like someone who's like privileged, I can afford to do that. I don't have kids, like I have time to like me and my boyfriend during the pandemic, we were like, okay, we're not going to have any, we went through this phase of like we're really going to try and not use any plastic. It was insane. It was so hard to do because when you start realizing like every single thing I buy in the supermarket has plastic, everything, you start getting really overwhelmed because you're like, oh, well, I guess I can't get any of this stuff. And then you're like, well, can I just not get any of my favorite things I like to eat? You know, and you start getting all this like weird guilt. And then we start going to like refill places, which are amazing, but often they're not like everywhere.
No.
They're often in sort of like bougier areas too.
Yeah.
And the foresight that you have to put into going, oh, okay, we're going to run out of like dishwasher, we're going to run out of like washing up liquid, and every now and then you're like, oh, I can't, I need it now, like we're going to get the easier option, or
Yeah.
it just is actually like a lot of effort in our modern society to make the effort, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
a lot of effort, and that's coming from someone who like doesn't have kids, and like my job is lots of different types of hours, and yeah, so I found that really interesting because it was just so difficult to do, and it really makes you think um of like the messaging is so important, and accessibility, and like considering every person in the world, and like what the different circumstances are that we all live in. Like we can't just preach and like expect everybody to like jump on the train of like the ethics train, because it's like, what are the circumstances, what's the bigger picture? Although like the great thing about being vegan is nowadays there's lots of options, lots of education about like how to be healthy, and I think that like it is a really easy thing to join in with, even if it's something that you don't want to do all the time.
Yeah.
Like we shouldn't be eating meat every day. Even if you're not vegan, go vegan or vegetarian for like the 5 days a week, you know what I mean? And that's going to make a difference in some way.
Yeah.
Because like my mom always says, when she was growing up, like they just bought meat when they could afford meat, and that would be like once a week or once every 2 weeks. And people that go back to like, oh, it's like the caveman diet or whatever, it's like, do you think cavemen were killing animals like every day? Do you know how hard it is to hunt? Like, have you watched Alone? It's really difficult to hunt, especially like if you were a caveman, like what tools you would have. Like they wouldn't be like killing animals and eating meat every day. They'd like kill one animal and that would last a really long time. And then like it would take up energy and like resources to go out and kill again. So
Yeah.
it's like there's no argument to me that makes any sense that anyone should be eating meat every day. Like I don't see that how that's healthy for a human. I don't think it's natural. And you're probably compromising, like unless you're rich and privileged, you're compromising on like the quality of the meat that you're eating, and like what conditions that animal went through, and also like if that food is even healthy for you, if you can even call it food.
I know. I was, because I live in such a bubble with the whole vegan thing, because it's my job, and
Yeah.
like, okay, my husband's not vegan, but he will only, he only tends to eat meat when we're in a pub, and it's kind of quite removed from me. And you do exist in this little bubble, and then being with, as I was saying, with my girlfriends, there was like 10 of us, and I think there was one veggie and me vegan, and it was very much like oh, but what, oh my god, you can't have butter. And it was like I was the alien, and yeah, they were kind of having the bacon and sausage and stuff, and I'm just like sort of inwardly freaking out, thinking
Yeah.
that's carcinogenic. And I sort of plucked up the courage, because I don't want to ruin their weekend constantly ramming stuff down their throat. So I was just like, did you know that bacon's carcinogenic? And they were like, what? And I just presume that everyone knows this because I'm living in this bubble. And
Yeah.
actually people don't. Why do people not know that bacon and sausage are classed the same, in the same category as smoking? Like why
I
do,
didn't know that actually.
didn't you?
No,
Yeah,
wow, I didn't
yeah,
know that. That's so
yeah.
interesting.
So why is this not common knowledge? We're selling cigarettes with all these horrific images on, quite rightly. But then
Right.
meat's just out there, kind of we're feeding it to our children at the school fete and stuff. And it's like, no.
That's really a good point. Yeah, I wondered if I have wondered that before. Like, is there going to be like, will the beef industry kind of end up being like what the cigarettes?
Mm,
You know, I don't know.
yeah,
It's so fascinating, the whole thing. Because
yeah,
now even with cigarettes, you're like, now there's like what they called vapes.
yeah,
and they're just everywhere, and you see them like there's so much like more actually like maybe vaping is worse because at least people can make their own choice and it's just like paper, and if you want to do something now you have the education to know it's not healthy, but like you're not just buying like disposable plastic constantly to just like vape all day,
Yeah.
like not even just going out for a cigarette, like a few like the people. I have a friend who just vapes constantly, he doesn't even realize that he does it anymore, and it's all disposable like pink little plastic
Yeah.
refills. I'm like, this is worse, you should just
I know.
smoke, just smoke.
But if you look at how, where we were even what, 10, 20 years ago, I remember going into a pub and
Yeah,
smoking when I was, 22 or whatever. And there was a lady there with newborn twins.
yeah.
And,
Oh,
I felt a bit guilty, but I thought, well, I'm in a pub. So, why have you brought them in here? Whereas now it'd be like, can you imagine doing that? Sparking up
yeah.
a cigarette next to a newborn baby. And
Basically,
yeah,
be arrested. No,
yeah, you should be. But yeah,
no, it's
so
true.
if we could do that with meat, then how amazing would that be? Warnings about health and how it's impacting the planet. And I don't know whether we could go as far as what happened to the animal. I think people might be walking around traumatized then, but
Yeah, I know it is. It's traumatizing.
it is.
But I do
Um,
think like everybody should see it.
I know, but it's
I know it's like I know there's like different opinions on how aggressive to sort of be about it. But I made the choice when I was vegetarian. I was not watching any of that stuff because I was like, I didn't have to. I'm vegetarian. Like, I don't have to know. I've already made a commitment. But then there was a point where I was like, actually, I think I should still know because I actually can back up what I feel
yeah,
with knowledge. And it's those images have never left me. Like, I've never forgotten them ever. And it's
yeah,
deeply upsetting. But that's the reality of the world that we live in. And I think definitely meat eaters should have to at least see it once because
yeah,
just see it because it's like that's what you're doing. And food became, I suppose, like I don't know when like things like chicken nuggets were invented, but that's when we just started getting so dissociated from like what we were eating and not really like wanting to like have bones in our food or anything that like reminded you that it was actually an animal. So then there's like even less connection because
yeah.
it's really processed.
Until you find like a foot or something accidentally
Yeah,
in the
that's it.
oh yeah. Okay, I feel like I'm traumatizing you today. I'm so sorry.
I've lost my appetite now.
Yeah. Oh dear. I mean, it's there's so many difficult topics to tackle as a vegan, and it like we said, it can affect your mental health, can't it? But I think, like, going back to coffee wars, it's nice to sort of have that light-hearted relief
Yeah,
and just kind of look at it from a different angle, because not everyone can watch these difficult films with,
exactly.
I
I'm like,
personally,
everyone should watch it. And I'm
yeah.
like, no, actually, comedy's the way. Comedy's
Yeah,
like going
I take
against it.
it back, don't watch it. Yeah, I mean, I'd love meat eaters to watch these things, but as someone who's a massive wimp, I can't even get through them myself. So I think, if there's another sort of angle that could spark a little
Inspiration.
seed. Yeah, exactly. So
Comedy's the way. Comedy's the way.
yeah.
It's true. Because you could, like I think what's great about this film is the characters, like she's like losing her cool so much in the film about what she believes in, but everything she's saying is true. And she's kind of like so angry at people that are trying to order like a normal coffee.
I love the
And
normal, like
have a
when
normal
anyone's,
meal.
I know, it's like, are you having a normal breakfast or a vegan breakfast? I'm like, it's the other way round.
I think that could change, especially in the coffee world, because I got an email the other day from Stumptown Coffee. I'm like subscribed to like, so they're a big like coffee brand in America,
Okay.
and they now are going to serve oat as their normal milk. So they sent out an email saying the standard like milk that we're going to serve is oat, and if you want dairy, you have to ask for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's amazing, because that's like, and you know, actually the coffee connoisseurs, we had some like coffee, because the coffee competitions, which our film is about a vegan coffee barista played by me, and there's like a team of misfits who like work in my shop, including Saoirse Monica Jackson, Owain Arthur, and like the guy giving us the beans is Jordan Stevens, and there's just such an amazing cast in the film. Uh, and we go to, like, I'm very passionate about coffee, and I'm also like in loads of debt. So I sign up to this coffee competition where the prize is a lot of money. And these coffee competitions really exist. And we had some of the winners
Oh,
work on our
wow.
film. The winners of the competition, like I think they were like, we shot in Serbia, and it was like the Serbian winners. I can't remember what year, but they like taught us how to make all the coffees and stuff. And they also told us that oat is the best milk to have with coffee because it affects the taste of the coffee the least. So if you're like a coffee like purist, you shouldn't
Right.
be. It should be sacred. Like it's a crime to put dairy in your
Right.
coffee.
Yes. Because it's quite a sort of sour flavor, isn't it? Although,
It's so sour once but that's only once you've like left it, I think.
yeah,
Because even
yeah,
now, if I walk into I walked into a shop the other day, and I was looking at like, it was like a really nice shop with like vegetables and like lunch, and then it had like cheeses and wine. And when I walked in the section that was all the cheese, and I was like, I could really like smell the sourness of it, which is so
yeah.
weird. I never thought be grossed out by cheese, because I used to love cheese.
Yeah, same.
Like smell, you can
Yeah.
smell the pus in the blood, probably.
Nice. Do you sort of turn things down now because of your ethics? Do you sort of find it really important to like only work on things that kind of align with them, or has that not really sort of come up so far?
That hasn't really come up. I think in terms of music, you know, unfortunately, like there's going to be loads of meat and plastic served at every single festival that I work at. Um, it's cool when you get to do things like me and my friend and writing partner Rebecca Johnson shot our own short films, and it was like a completely vegan set. So all the crew and everybody was fed with like vegan food only. We made two short films like that, and it's cool to like know that you can do that
Yeah,
without being apologetic or something, you know? Because you kind of get nervous to like you said, you don't want to like, you're like, oh, is everyone going to be okay? But and that's how I run my tours now too. Like I won't buy meat or dairy on the rider. So when you're
brilliant.
an artist, you like ask for food on your rider at each venue that you play at, and like the promoters will kind of provide food so that your crew and everything can eat during the day. But I won't do meat or dairy anymore because I'm vegan, and like it's a realization that like, oh, I'm not contributing, so I don't want to like contribute in any way. And
Yeah,
you're still feeding people. I really believe in feeding people. I think people should be fed very well. But if anybody wanted meat or dairy or eggs or anything on my tour, they'd just have to buy that themselves afterwards. And everyone's been completely fine with that because they're still
yeah.
like, you know, getting fed good food. So
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I know my mum sort of battles with it because she's got vegan and meat eating grandkids, and she's like, well, I have to do, she invites everyone around for tea, like the big sort of family gathering. She's like, well, I've got to do a meat option. They eat meat. And I'm like, but you don't, because you're vegetarian. And it's
right.
not going to kill them to
It
not
doesn't
have
have, yeah,
meat
yeah, for
once.
one meal. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's
Oh, your poor mum. Like that's classic mum though, isn't it? 'Cause they want to look after everyone.
bless her. Okay, it's been so nice to chat to you. I mean, there's so many more issues we could cover. Are you at any are you at like vegan camp out or anything this summer?
No, but I am at a lot of festivals this summer.
Are you?
I'm at Bingley, Why Not, Truck Festival, Tramlines, Victorious. There's like a bunch going on this summer, which I'm really excited about.
Okay.
Maybe
Oh,
I'll have to just go as a punter to
yes,
the called?
come. Vegan camp out. It's in
Thinking
like yeah, yeah, do it. Um, what was I gonna say? It's yeah, I am so desperate for festival season now. I am like so done with this winter. It's gone on and on and on. So yeah.
You deserve it. Because it's like
Yeah,
in the air sometimes, except today where it's like just raining and miserable. But
it is.
It's
Yeah.
coming.
Oh, well, thank you for everything you do. And yeah, everyone check out Coffee Wars when it comes out, and we'll let you know the date in the show notes.
Awesome. I hope you enjoy the film.
Cheers. Oh, my voice is going. God, it was a bit of a wild one. I was like, I've got to interview Kate Nash. And
You got through it.
yeah. Thank you ever so much.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Yeah, it was lovely to meet you. I'll yeah, maybe see you at Bean Camp Out. Who knows?
Okay, great. Yeah, awesome. Have a good one.
Okay, bye.
Bye.